Okay, welcome back. So, wanted to talk to you about tools. I have a very love-hate relationship with DeWalt. I've got a bunch of their tools. I think they're really good. Some of them, and I'll get into that. What I've been using, obviously you can see I've kind of beat these up a bit. I've got the DeWalt circular saw, a cutoff tool, the battery, and a cordless drill. So this is an interesting video because I got a bunch of complaints both with their research and development, their product marketing team, their web designers, and their executive staff, because frankly I think they're doing a bunch of dumb stuff, and this is just my opinion. So personally, I'm a little bit more than the average weekend warrior, but I'm less than a professional. My personal opinion is if I'm going to pay money to buy a tool, I'm going to buy the best thing I can because I want to, get the most out of it. And I don't want to have it breaking down on me in the middle of doing something. I also want something that's really safe and really efficient. So personally, I always buy the brushless and tools. I don't know if you know the difference between the brushed and the brushless tools. The brush tools are kind of the older generation, and there's nothing wrong with it if you're using it for an occasional here or there little weekend warrior project on an occasion, right? But if you're using it professionally, you want to go with a brushed tool personally, because the motor's going to last longer. A bunch of my friends that actually work in the trades day to day that use tools, they always kind of have this joke that if you buy a brushed, it comes with factory smoke. And if you know what I'm talking about, after you kind of burn up that battery, it smells burnt and the tool's done. So they call it factory smoke. So that's why I buy the brushless. But there's only certain things that I'll recommend out of the DeWalt line. And we're going to kind of get into one of them, which is in regard to the circular saws. I love them. They've been really great. They work really well. I haven't had any issues with these so far. And I beat them up pretty good so far. And I plan to beat them up even more as I continue on working upstairs and building out the second floor. And that's why I wanted to, have good tools that were going to last. So I don't mind paying a little bit extra money. But we're going to get into like the circular saw in a minute. And we're going to look at their website and kind of talk about their variety of tools and how much of a royal pain in the ass it is figuring out what you're actually buying. So, and I'm going to get into safety when it comes to these circular saws, and something that actually really kind of chaps my backside about tool companies in general and DeWalt too. So give me a minute and let's go look at some of that. But let me explain one other thing and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is my Craftsman chainsaw, and I know you're confused right now. If we're talking about DeWalt tools, why are we looking at a Craftsman chainsaw? Okay, so it doesn't matter if you buy the cheapest Chinese piece of junk chainsaw out there, or you buy the most tricked out competition lumberjack chainsaw out there. They all have one feature. And I'm just using my Craftsman as an example of what I'm talking about because I have it here. I'm not going to go and buy 10 chainsaws to show you, but in general, this is mine. I've been beating this thing up, doing a bunch of like cutting, especially in the landscape series, you'll see. Anyway, every chainsaw that's out there, and if you've never used a chainsaw before, has this bar right here. And if you push it forward, the chainsaw will not run. To make this thing run, you have to pull this thing back and lock it in place, okay? It sits like that. And the reason it's there is safety. So that way, as you're using the chainsaw, and as you can see, my hand barely fits in there between the handle and the safety guard. So what happens is if you're using the chainsaw, it kicks forward and shuts the whole thing down. And the reason it's there is if you're cutting along and the chainsaw kicks back on you, you don't actually cut your man part off. So it kicks back on you and then shuts it down. So that's what it's there for. And it's a safety feature on every single chainsaw that's out there. I seriously doubt in this day and age you can buy a chainsaw that doesn't have this safety guard built into it. So when we're talking about safety guards on every tool that's out there, then we come back to these circular saws. This one by DeWalt, if you buy the higher end unit, has a safety. As soon as you let off this trigger, the freaking blade immediately stops. So let's take a second and look at that. Let me put the battery on there and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've got the guard down and I'm going to use this finger. So it's got an auto brake in there. So as soon as you let your finger off the trigger, it automatically breaks down. And that's a safety feature so you don't cut your fingers off. But if you look at most of the tools that are out there, and I'm not just specifically calling out DeWalt specifically, but I am calling out DeWalt specifically. If you look at their lower end models, the cheaper ones that the average occasional weekend warrior uses, they don't have this safety built in. And I kind of understand it from a false logic perspective. This one and the higher up one, there's one more that's higher up that's kind of more of a pro model. The logic is that when you use it every day as a professional, the probability that you're going to accidentally cut yourself or cut something by accident is higher because the probability you're using it more often, the chances of it occurring are also higher in probability. But I think that's false logic, because when you take a 15-year-old that's never driven a car before, they're learning the skills that someone that's been driving a long time has to be able to operate that vehicle, right? So when you're a brand new driver, you have a probability of getting in an accident more than if you've been driving for, say, 10, 15, or 20 years, right? So why is it that this is not a standard safety feature on all circular saws, right? Okay, so if you look at the cost difference between, I think the next one down and the next one up, we'll have to look at it when we start looking at the website in a few minutes. I don't think it's that expensive, right? If I remember right, and I'll correct myself when we look at the website because I'm trying to do this off memory, I think the cost difference is only like maybe $50. And I'm a capitalist. Making money is great. DeWalt needs to make money because it needs to return money to its shareholders. I want to make money, so therefore I can feed my family. I'm a capitalist, okay? So I get people wanting to make profit. With that being said, if the cost difference between the one that doesn't have the safety versus the one that does have the safety is, if it's $50, I'm sure DeWalt has built in a profit margin into that. So let's say the part, and I'm guessing, I don't know, someone at DeWalt can probably tell us the exact part cost, but the additional part cost, let's say if it's $30 and they've got a 20% markup or something like that, and they're charging $50 between this one that has the safety and $50 less for the one that doesn't have the safety, and the part is actually only $30. I don't know about you, but I think I'd like to keep these 4 fingers on my hand at the cost of $30. That's a nice insurance policy, in my opinion. So I don't think that there's anybody watching this video or anyone out there that says, no, I'm not going to pay $30 to make sure it's a safe piece of equipment. Not that it's DeWalt's fault if you cut your finger off, you just made a mistake. But the fact that this thing spins down and maybe I go to the emergency room for stitches versus having to have 4 fingers reattached. I don't understand why chainsaws in this day and age, from the cheapest piece of Chinese junk all the way up to the professional models, they all have a safety built in to stop that blade from working in case you have an accident, and that's what it is. It's an accident. Why every single one of these in their line does not have that safety built in, it just boggles my mind, right? So would I recommend you buying something like this? Absolutely, but there's only certain models that we'll look at when we look at the website that I'd recommend, because frankly, maybe it costs different, maybe $100, and going from the cheapest model that's out there up to the one that has the safety, maybe there's $100 difference because, and I'll show you the differences, like some of these, instead of metal guards, they're plastic and they're kind of cheap. And yeah, if you're only doing it, using it once a year or twice a year, paying the extra $100 doesn't make sense. But for me, even paying that additional 100 or whatever it is to make sure that I've got the safety on there, that makes a lot of sense. But even there's 2 models of this. They both look almost absolutely identical. When you go and look at it at the store, they both have the metal guard. I spent 45 minutes looking at the 2, trying to figure out what the cost difference of these 2 other than $40 or $50. And I finally, after Googling it, because it didn't even really say it on the tag of the display, which is going to be me complaining about their marketing department, why isn't it bold out there, no safety versus, right? Because as soon as I figured out why there was a cost difference of like $50, I was like, oh, well, that's a no-brainer. So anyway, follow me inside, and we're going to start looking at their website and kind of break down their products, and I'll make some recommendations on what I think you should buy. Well, I'll make a recommendation of what I would buy, and then you can make the cost determination yourself. But the display plan at the store was horrible. Their website is absolutely horrible. Why they don't have the safety built into every single one of their product line. And there's some idiot that needs to be re-drug tested, because there's a business concept out there called differentiation. Let's say Craftsman and DeWalt and all these companies, they have 2 high-end lines that have the safety and the rest don't have the safety. If DeWalt built in the safety across the whole product line, they could advertise all of our stuff is safe, and people would buy their product more. So they're differentiating based on safety, which I think everybody would, right? So there's no argument that's logical, at least in my mind, that they can't put the auto brake in every single one of them. Anyway, let's go inside. Let's look at their website. I'll show you how confusing their website is. I'll show you some pictures from the big box store to show you how confusing that is. And we can talk about it, and I'll show you what I would recommend.
Okay, so if we're looking at their webpage, and I'm not going to go through every single webpage on DeWalt's site for every single tool. I'm just going to look at the circular saws since that's what we've been talking about. But if you look on their page, there's actually 2 pages, and it covers 26 different SKU numbers and 26 different products that you have to kind of figure out what one is versus the other, and it makes it extremely difficult for people to figure out what they're trying to purchase. If we go and continue on and look just simply at the actual tools themselves, there's 9 different circular saws, right? I'm not sure why you would need or what the differentiation factor is in having 9 different ones at different price points. I mean, people are price conscious, but I mean, they range all the way from $99 up to $400. In fact, there's 2 that are so identically similar, it's almost ridiculous. One is for $229, and the other one is for, I believe, $249. And the difference is tool detect technology. So personally, I would just purchase the one for the additional $20 out there, but they need to reduce their SKUs and reduce their lines because it doesn't make sense, and it makes it confusing for the customer. The other thing you got to look at is that they do have kits that they put together, which kind of adds to the confusion because some of these kits, if you actually look at the individual tools themselves, they may or may not, I'm not sure when you're going to be viewing this and what they've done to change their line, but they may not be the higher end tools that you think you're getting. There have been a lot of reports of people doing returns because they bought the kit and then it wasn't exactly what they thought it was. So personally, if I was going to go through and buy something myself, I would buy the tool ad hoc by itself and buy the batteries and the accessories that you want. In addition to that way you know exactly what you're getting, and that's what I did when I finally figured out what was going on with all their SKUs and stuff. So I personally bought the DCS 574B, which is the brushless circular saw with power detect technology. I got the DCD 998B, which is a 20 volt max XR brushless cordless hammer drill with power detect. And then I got the DCS 356B 20 volt max XR brushless cordless 3-speed oscillating tool, and that way I knew exactly what I was getting. So everybody's price conscious, and I get that. So if you're only using this as a weekend warrior every now and then, maybe once or twice a year, then you don't have to spend the money. If you're using it fairly heavily, I would go with something with the power detect technology. And then obviously, if you're doing this professionally every day, and this is, you got to be your absolutely reliable, I would obviously pay the higher end for their worm drive circular saws and equipment. But in general, I won't recommend anything that does not have the auto brake built into it. As far as the circular saws go, I just don't think it's safe, so I can't recommend anything below that. Also, when you're getting ready to buy these tools, again, you may be listening to this 2 days after it's published and everything's current, or it may be 2 years from now when you're listening to this, and SKU lines have changed. And what I'm posting right now isn't current, but I would be very careful about buying their kits and making sure that you understand that the power rating on the kit, even though they've come out with a lot of brushless kits lately, prior to this, there was complaints that you would buy the kit and you thought you were getting brushless, but it wasn't brushless, it was the brushed equipment. But I've seen that there's new brushless kits out now. I would check the power rating, because the power rating may be part of their lower end brushless line, where if you're trying to do some heavy duty drilling, maybe you're not going to get the power out of it that you need to, especially if you're buying a kit for professional work or semi-professional work. So again, I'm not saying that this is a bad thing. I understand that DeWalt is trying to market to the masses, but 26 products and 9 different circular saws. And if you go look at the oscillating tools, there's 3 different oscillating tools, all within about $100 of each other. Some of this doesn't make sense, and I don't know if they're intentionally trying to confuse customers and bamboozle you, or if this is just really bad marketing and management that's coming through from their marketing group. It doesn't make sense to me after getting my MBA. Why there would be 9 different SKUs for circular saws. They couldn't be that much differentiation in the market between $20 between one and the other, especially when you could just pay $20 more and get a better tool. Maybe it's an old one, I'm not sure, but be very careful. DeWalt makes really good products as far as I'm concerned, as long as you know what you're getting, and the website makes it extremely confusing. And then the other thing I really have an issue with is, when I was kind of looking at tools, I want to go put my hands on a tool. So I went down to my local big box store, and I'm going to show you some pictures now. And it just didn't make sense to me either, the way the market was. I'm not sure if it's the store itself that was not displaying this correctly. I'm not sure if they were out of stock of a couple things, or if this was their marketing department, because a lot of marketing departments will send people out to make sure their displays are set up to their specifications. And it was more confusing than anything else, because they had different sections. They had kits with a circular saw, and then they had another section that had the lower end circular saws, and another section that had the higher end circular saws. There's even this one picture I'm going to show you right now where it had 3 different circular saws, and one thing that was confusing, so they had this one, the DCS 391B, that was you see the price on it set there for $99. However, if you actually go on the website and then look at the actual tool itself, the tool that was displayed there was actually the DCS 565B, because the 391B I don't think has the brake on it, because there's that little sticker on the front of the guard, the blade guard, that'll show you that it's got brake. The 391B at $99, I'm not sure if it does or not, but it was just excruciatingly confusing between the two. I wasn't sure what I was looking at. And then as you see up above, there's one for $249. But if you actually look up above there, the display, it was missing the display. So 3 different areas for 3 different saws. One was overly confusing. I wasn't sure what I was getting. And then the tags that talk about it, or it says it's 20 volt and all this other sort of stuff. It doesn't differentiate what you're buying. So the design, the layout for the in-store design needs to be completely redone and revamped, and because that's confusing customers. Because I don't know about you, but I hate to go out and buy something and get home and then realize, yeah, that wasn't what I thought I bought, and then I have to go back to the store and then do more research, and it's a royal pain. So anyway, my recommendation is number 1. Buy Brushless. It is a better quality tool. It's not that much more money. If you're buying something, buy one that has the safety features. There's also some anecdotal stuff I've heard running around the internet about some of the tools that they put out, that maybe some of these tools are specifically designed for just one big box store, and then they have a completely separate design for another big box store. I don't know how true that is, but I've heard a couple of rumors here and there. So if you're buying something that has power detect technology, I think that's branded toward one retailer. And then what is the other one? FlexVolt. That's right. The FlexVolt and the power detect were branded differently to different stores. I've also heard some vague anecdotal things on the internet. I don't know if it's true, so don't take my word on it. Do your own research. But I've heard that if you put FlexVolt batteries in the power detect, maybe there might be an issue. I'm not sure, but if I buy FlexVolt, I'm only going to use FlexVolt batteries in there. And if I buy power detect, I'm going to only put power detect on there. They say it works on both, but again, there's some anecdotal evidence through some forums out there that may or may not have issues. Now, if you're using FlexVolt and you're using power detect and power detect, I've heard absolutely 0 issues. I'm just not sure I'd want to cross the two over, but that's me personally. But again, my recommendation is buy a brushless tool. Make sure that you know what tool that you're buying, because they are different powertrains and different tools, so you know what you're getting. And then I'd get the PowerTech or the FlexVolt, and I'd only use batteries in both. So talk to you later.